Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Concerned Citizen. My name is Matthew, and boy, people really will fall for anything, right? I thought it was interesting today that I think Sarah Haynes on The View admitted to voting for Trump. Basically, she said, I will accept, this is one of the things that I have to accept the consequences of my vote when they were discussing the topics of the selection of Dr. Oz overseeing CMS, a Center of Medicaid and Medicare Services, and then they transitioned to education discussion at where it got heated, right? So, I think that what we've seen on the show, and I've mentioned this before if you've watched, any of my videos, is that I think that Allysa is feeling much more empowered and comfortable with expressing her view now that Trump has won. Before, when Trump had lost, it was about self preservation and saying things that she thought people wanted to hear. After all, right? She was somebody who worked in the White House and did give advice from a political stance. And if anyone knows politicians, they'll say what you want to hear. So I've always questioned, to tell you the truth, Alyssa's kind of character and in the sense of where she's coming from and her judgment of character. Because after all, you don't just work for Donald Trump after everything he did if you're not having some sort of questionable behavior and judgment. So when she went on The View, I always really struggled with her in the sense that I was like, how could you work for somebody like that? And I was like, you know what? It's because she still has things in common with the MAGA movement, the Republican Party, Trumpism, whatever you want to call it, right? And I saw clues of that, going throughout. I saw that sometimes she was respectful. Some points I could understand, agree with. And lately she's been very empowered because of Trump's win to say certain things. And I noticed that her and Sarah tend to agree with each other. I felt like I related to Joy when she says, like, everyone's just pissed off, that Trump won and we hate it. And I think it's because of the fear of everything that he represents and everything that comes with him. So when they were talking about the education, they talked about Medicare and Medicaid a little bit, but really got into education and this idea of, vouchers, which allows someone to move their child to a different school or charter private school, and that state money would move with them. Now, I do understand Sonny's point here because instead of investing to make schools better, basically what you're doing is taking those funds for those who, let's say, are talented, do show an aptitude to be what these schools are looking for or will accept in them, and they're gone, their money's gone, and you're left with the other students who are maybe struggling or are not being accepted by these other schools, right? Because it's not everybody just gets accepted. And they are left with less funds. They're not going to pay teachers more, right? The funding is getting cut. Like, you're probably going to have, teachers who are really drained or probably not invested because they can't be. And you end up hurting that school and students who are remaining there rather than fixing it. And then eventually what happens? It becomes like, hey, the whole public school sector is terrible. Let's dismantle it all. And now we only have private. And then it gets into for-profit schools. And, a lot of people can't afford to go to a private college or, a prestige college, right? Because how expensive they are. So I completely agree with Sunny in regards to her concerns that this is something that we should question. This is something we should be cautious about. Now, Alyssa's stance is that basically that parent is getting to decide, what's right for their children, because they can't wait. You're going to stay there and wait for people just to do nothing, or you're going to take the chance, right? But you're going to get the government money to take that with you. So that's her point of view. And it's interesting because Alyssa's always like, and the other side of like the student loan forgiveness of like, how we're going to pay for this is not fixing the problem. Well, basically, sorry, got a little itchy. So basically you're saying, take the money, give it to the parents so they can go where they want, but you're not fixing the problem either, Allysa. So your kind of logic for against student loan forgiveness about that it's not fixing the fundamental problems of college and the expenses towards higher education. Here you're not really fixing a problem. You're taking microdoses for individual people, and you're still not fixing the fundamental issue that's happening in public education. So it got really heated, and Allysa, kept on interrupting Sunny. She kept on trying to question her. She was like, Sunny, didn't you go to private school? And all these other things, right? And, Whoopi had to stop it, and they had to go to commercial break. And it was kind of funny because Allysa, when they were before they went to commercial break, was like, basically, she was like, she kept on talking and stuff, and she goes, well, you have to, I think Joy had made a comment. She goes, well, you gotta, she was basically telling her, you gotta calm down, and Allysa, came back where she goes, she had 3 minutes to speak, and then, it went over to commercial. So it was really interesting in that regard, but it shows how divided, like Whoopi said, we are in this country. I saw a Facebook post that I found ridiculous. So just a little background. I live in upstate New York. I grew up in a town called Amsterdam in upstate New York. I had fond memories of that growing up there, and I like going there. It's a small town, and the city, there is a company that was started there. Probably people have seen commercials for it. Sticker Mule, and their owner, who's done a lot, right, made that company, done a lot with it, has invested in the community, has another, hot sauce that he sells, and really is an entrepreneur, right? A businessman. And he put up a sign in the city of Amsterdam, and it made national news, that said, vote for Trump. And it was a huge sign. He did so without any building permits, and the city said, hey, you need to take this down. You didn't even get the right clearance to do this. Basically, it was allowed to be left up because the logistics of, a judge overseeing this saying, hey, you're infringing on someone's freedom of speech. And for me, that already put a bad taste in my mouth, because I was like, here's another example of somebody with money and power that gets away with breaking the rules, where someone else did this, they would not be able to get the same treatment. They would treat it very differently, right? So he, has been touting about, Trump and pro-Trump, and he had a party, election day. They even had a signed party. And then Elise Stefanik gets appointed to, Trump party. I think she's going to be a UN ambassador, I believe, right? Something like that. And the owner of Sticker Mule, Anthony, I think that's his name, posts that he is going to run for Elisa's empty seat, because he's looking for unity, and he believes that, Trump is the right answer, and he's really in love with Trump. He's up his ass. So it was funny because I go through his posts, and it's everything pro-Trump. All these people supporting him, saying, oh my gosh, I'm gonna vote for you. I was like, I am not gonna vote for this man. Do we need another businessman, to just do policies that are just going to benefit their bottom line? I mean, Elon Musk, even before getting Trump is in office, with Trump being elected, and them kind of previewing that they're going to get rid of the EV tax credit and all these other things that are anticipated for Elon's company, that they're going to benefit Tesla, Starlink, and all these other government contracts, right? He gained $60 billion in wealth. Again, personal interest and just personal gain there. I was like, okay, things are so great immediately when you're elected. I would see lots of things helping the American people even before you're in office. But a billionaire benefiting and getting $60 billion, already the richest man in the world, even richer. So I have little faith that the CEO of Sticker Mule here in Amsterdam, right, is going to go into office, Allysa's seat, potentially wants to have the same kind of influence and wants to be around the celebrity of Trump, has the best interest for America and the people of New York. So I saw another post that he had, this CEO of Sticker Mule, and it basically was posting that Trump has called for unity. The Democrats and everybody really needs to take this, call for unity and look at this, man leading, it's just like Trump calling for unity and everything. And a lot of people are going, yeah, the Democrats have been dividing so much. The division that the Democrats have caused, and I have itchy nose. And I was like, I posted, I said, okay, if you want the Democrats to mirror Trump's behavior like you're asking, right? Because you're saying, oh, mirror his behavior and unity and bringing the country together. It's time we come together. I say it in that way because it's so ridiculous, right? If you really want the Democrats to mirror Trump, then we should, for the next 4 years, complain that the election was stolen, create a riot on January 6th when the votes are being certified, right? And then throughout the 4 years of Trump being president, just, flood the airwaves with hate and keep on saying it was stolen, keep on having people in the news saying that, crooked Trump, right? That's what we should be doing. That's what we should be doing. Because I find the whole statement of Trump calling for unity after he's been like an asshole for the past 4 years and done terrible things and said terrible things to be laughable and ridiculous. Somebody who has the support of the white supremacists, Proud Boys, KKK, right, neo-Nazis, whatever, right? That's the person that you're saying is calling for unity. Someone who's associated with all those people. Someone who associates himself with Matt Gaetz, who's accused of terrible things, right? I just find it interesting that you're calling for unity. It's really, I laugh, but at the same time, it's so ridiculous and so infuriating. It gets me like fucking pissed off because it's so disgusting that people who have said terrible things. Trump has made fun of disabled people. He said terrible things about Puerto Ricans. The party has said terrible things when Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked in his home when they were trying to get Nancy Pelosi, and Trump basically, said no words of support and did exactly the opposite. So I don't understand where these calls for unity are coming from. And this is why, for Allysa, I see and always have known who she was. I had suspicions. I would talk to my mom on the phone too, and she was like, "There's something I don't like about that Allysa." And I was like, "I know what you mean," because it's really hard to reconcile somebody being associated with Trump and the party, and January 6th was the moment where it just got too far. Because you know what? You got to feel the heat from that flame when you play with fire, and you were just like, "I'm out. I see smoke. I feel the heat." And now you kind of went away, from it, and you see that he won. You go, "Oh, I think it's safe again." The American people wanted this, but about 50% of the American people wanted it, right? And I should say 50% that voted wanted this, So the 50% that voted wanted this. So it wasn't a landslide, like they said, when you think about the popular vote. When you look at the electoral votes, yeah. And when you look at that map that says everything is almost going red, yeah, definitely. But when you look at the numbers and you see that Kamala Harris had 48.3% and Donald Trump had 50.7% thus far, right? The votes are still being counted, but it looks like that's the range we're going to be at. It wasn't the huge bloodbath as far as the popular vote that we thought. And I really think that we should get rid of the Electoral College. It's ridiculous. The gerrymandering and all that. The elected officials, even Democrats, because let me get this straight here. If Kamala was going to be in office, I was prepared to say, like, we need to do something to get the fire under her ass, to get her moving, because we don't want to go throughout the regular Democratic thing that they're doing right now with Trump, which is like, oh, peaceful transfer of power. I know that they're doing for save face, but you still can criticize the guy in these appointments. But they are sitting back, and it's what so many people are getting pissed off at. You have the Morning Joe host going to meet with Trump privately, and at first, my thoughts there were like, you know what? They said, why not? They're meeting with him. They're trying to extend something, maybe trying to speak and maybe say everything to his face. But the more I thought about it, the more I saw people commenting on it about their outrage, I can understand, because they're like, you're somebody, and I didn't know this history with them, that was friends with Trump, did hang out with Trump. They did have a falling out, and then they did, call out Trump, rightfully so. And the fact that they didn't, let's say, have it aired, like an interview, where we could see exactly what they were calling him out on and what they were speaking to, that didn't happen. Instead, it was behind closed doors, where you have no idea what they're talking about. So we're here to kind of trust that you actually did say that. It reminds me of like somebody when they tell you, like, I went to the store and the woman said that she wasn't going to take my return. And you know what I did? I told her off. I said, you are going to do this, or I am going to make a scene. Sorry, it's a little fuzzball. I'm going to make a scene. And you know very well they didn't do that. So they could say anything. They were like, I mean, it was disturbing for some people, and they were like, oh, he was very cheerful. He was very open to, having these conversations. It seemed like he was interested in unity. He has full power. He can be like, okay, little peon, come to me. Tell me what you would like. And he was like, oh. And then they're like, oh, he said nice things. And he's like, that is my gift to you. My kind thoughts. And the fact that I let you come in to Mar-a-Lago. I just don't get it. So I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of power. I've never felt the desire to fit in at all. I don't go with the flow if I feel it's not right. I struggle sometimes because I am not a person who just tries to fit in, right? I mean, at my job, right, I'm not hurting anybody by, playing the game, as they say. But anytime that I was promoted or getting higher, I always thought about, like, who can I elevate? And it's people that I feel that recognize and know what it's like to be missed or unnoticed for your talent. And it's usually the people who are the loudest and maybe have the most influence, either because of their status, right? Or who they are, who are related to, that usually get the promotions. No matter where you go, there's some sort of politics, right? Doesn't have to be the politics that we know of, the president and Senate and who your legislature is and governor and all that. It also could be the internal office politics. So there are my thoughts on this. Let me know what you think. I am kind of exhausted, and we haven't even gotten to someone being put into official office. We haven't even seen them apply their legislation, and it's already a shit show. So thank you. Leave comments, like, subscribe. Bye.